no fracking, no this, no that. I mean, no guns. How about guns? No guns, no Second Amendment. Biden has pledged to appoint prosecutors who will extend these insane far-left policies nationwide. That's what he's done. That's called the manifesto. He agreed to all this stuff. The craziest thing, you know, you're supposed to bring it to the right. He actually brought it further left. Bernie never dreamt that this was possible. Crazy Bernie. Do you know Crazy Bernie? You know, I had a lot of his voters come to me 4 years ago. A big percentage. You know why? Because I agree with him, and he agrees with me on one thing, trade, the trade, because he knew that other countries are ripping us off, and so did I. Nobody else got it, especially Biden, never got it. He never got it, still doesn't get it. Now he really gets nothing, I'll tell you. He didn't get it in prime time, now he really doesn't get it. But it's okay for them to make every city look just like Portland, which is a disaster, and again, we could clean it up. We just go right through it. 5,000, 10,000, right through it. These guys are tough, they're smart, and they love our country. They love our country. We'll clean it up in 1/2 hour. It'll be over. Did you see this radical left mayor? Wheeler, his name is. The radical left mayor. They chased him, Mike. They chased him out of his home last night. And all he does is be nice to them because they don't understand nice. They only understand one thing, strength. That's the only thing they understand. They don't understand nice. They chased him out of his home. Unbelievable. Biden's plan is to appease the domestic terrorists, and my plan is to arrest them and prosecute them. And I will always defend law-abiding citizens. That's why the rioters are voting for Biden and the law enforcement people. You know, we have it from everybody. We just got the sheriffs in Florida, all of them. We got Ohio, we got Texas, we got North Carolina, we got South Carolina. We got everybody. I don't know if there's anybody, and I see Rick Perry right there. Rick Perry, what are you doing here, Rick? Rick Perry, one of the greats. But they're all voting for me. This election is about safety, and this election is about jobs. Today, I'm delighted to accept a very, very special endorsement from people I like. Sort of grew up with these people. I don't know what it is, the relationship we have with all of us. But I'm getting an endorsement tonight from some very, very special people. They work hard. They do great. We really put them back to work because this state was in trouble. And last year, you had the single greatest year, economic year, in the history of your whole operation, right? Of your whole operation. You've never had anything like that. This has been your greatest. This has been, prior to the plague coming in, it's been the Commonwealth's greatest. Can we ever call the Commonwealth a state? You got two places. And you always have to say, well, wait a minute. Is this one a Commonwealth? Two places. You know what the other place is? Name it. Huh? That's right. How did you know that, Congressman? Huh? But this Commonwealth, it's a great Commonwealth. It's a great place. And the Boilermakers local union, Local 154 of the Boilermakers. They chartered in Pittsburgh 125 years ago. None of you are around to see it. And it now represents members in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and West Virginia. And I want to thank John Hughes and the Boilermakers here today. It's a great honor to have you. Who's John? Where the hell is John? Stand up, John. John, we appreciate it. We appreciate it. Do you know why John is the head? You know why? Because, look, he's got the worst location. I say, where's John? I'm looking in the front row. He's in. Put up your hand, John. Look at that guy. He's great. You got my vote, John. Hey, Boilermakers, thank you. What a job you do. You're the heart of this country. You really are. Thank you very much. That's a great endorsement. That's a great endorsement. Joe Biden spent the last 47 years shipping Pennsylvania jobs to China and foreign nations, and I've spent the last 4 years bringing them back home, and we're bringing them back home, bringing a lot of things back home. I ended the last administration's 8-year pure war on Pennsylvania oil and coal and fracking and national. If you look at this, the natural gas, what they've done to this state, what they were doing to this state, it was sort of easy. I just opened it up and I said, do it. And the investment put into Pennsylvania, the investment put into the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has been record-setting. But again, you had the greatest year you've ever had last year prior to the virus. You're going to be set now with what we're doing. I believe that this next quarter, which will be announced, interestingly, just prior to the election. So I'm putting myself in the line, but I know what's going to happen. The numbers are going to be great. And next year is going to be one of the greatest years, not only for Pennsylvania, but for the entire country. So Joe Hayden, we have a new one, Joe Hayden. We call him Joe Hayden. I have all of them. What do you like better? What do you like better? We got a number. Let's do a little poll. Can we do a poll? I saved myself so much money. You know, I saved myself so much money. We do these polls with thousands, and those people are coming in from the back, are they not? Yes? They're coming in. I'm telling you, you wouldn't have believed it. I'm landing. I wasn't waving at you. I was waving at them. There's more. But I do these polls, right? And it's like a perfect poll. You know, do you ever see the companies, you give them $1 million and they do a poll, like 78 people were polled. Now you got thousands of people. So tell me, what's your feeling, first of all, in the name? What's it? You like MAGA, Make America Great Again? Yes? Huh? Oh, you are the one, you are a man, I made you famous today. You said the nicest things about me. Thank you. Did you see him on television today? I think you're great. I think you're great. Thank you. No, he called me a great Christian and a great Christian leader. Thank you. But he did say I wasn't perfect. But that's okay. I said thank you anyway, right? No, that was really great. That was really great. But if you look at it, the things they've done, we're going to go through a couple of different polls as we go along because I love the people saying do this or do that. But one of the things I got you out of is this thing sounds so good, but it's so bad. It's a ripoff of our country, the so-called Paris Climate Accord. It's a disaster, a death sentence. It's a death sentence for your energy jobs. I took it out. I withdrew from that calamity. Biden pledged to reinstate it. It's going to cost you billions and billions of dollars. You know what it really is? It's a way of really taking advantage of the United States. That's what it is. Last year, I visited the Shell petrochemical plant in Beaver County. Anybody ever hear of Beaver County? Right? The largest investment in your state's history, all made possible by our pro-energy policies. Biden would wipe out that entire industry, killing the jobs of more than 600,000 Pennsylvania workers. It's probably 940,000, they say. Think of that. Also, prices and everything else. Now, Biden today came out and said, no, fracking's okay. It's okay. Did you see that? Fracking's okay. Because he was getting killed. And now he came out in favor of law enforcement. Look at all these handsome cops here. And a beautiful cop. No, but how can anybody believe it? He's totally against, at his speech and at the DNC, where we got much higher numbers than they did, but, you know, they put out that they did. They'll say anything. We got much higher by millions and millions of people. We had a great, did we have a great convention? Right? There's my guy. Good job you did. But we had a great convention, and it's been really terrific. You know, I made a speech at Mount Rushmore, and since that speech, our numbers have been up, up like a rocket, like a beautiful rocket. The Mount Rushmore speech. I said, you know, we're getting hit by this pandemic very unfairly in the sense that we've done such a good job with the ventilators, all of the things. You know, you've heard it 1,000 times. And we have to get back. And I made a speech in really a great place, South Dakota, but it was Mount Rushmore. You know, they want to blow it up. You know, they want to take off Mount Rushmore. If you would see how beautiful, this is, it was like this perfect evening. The sun was setting. The faces of these great, great, majestic heroes of our country, right? Heroes of our country. And they want to blow up Mount Rushmore. But how about this one? The Democrats yesterday came out with a plan. Did you see it? Now, they're the D.C. Democrats. They want to change the name of the Washington Monument, perhaps take it down. Thomas Jefferson, pretty good Thomas Jefferson, right? You could forget about ever hearing that name again. Abraham Lincoln, you could forget about it. They want to take down all statues, all monuments in Washington. We have some of your greatest people right here. Let me not even talk to the congressmen. The heck with the congressmen, the Boilermakers. How do you like the idea of taking down our statues to our great George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, Andrew Jackson, all of them? I don't think the Boilermakers, you'll do a ring around Washington, right? Along with Christopher Columbus, he's in big trouble, I'll tell you. Except there was a group of great Italians in New York. They tried to take down Christopher Columbus statue in New York. You saw what happened, right? These Italians formed a little circle. They say, come on. The agitators decided to leave. Let's get out of here, darling. They protected Christopher Columbus. The Italians aren't big on taking down Christopher Columbus. You take down those statues, you can forget about the Italian vote. Do we agree? But they protected it. When asked in a debate if there would be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking and natural gas and so many things that really fire up these big plants where many of you work, and they produce, just millions and millions of jobs throughout our country. Biden said, no, we would absolutely not allow anything like that. We would make sure it's totally eliminated. That's what he said. He said, we would make sure it's totally eliminated or eliminated. Now he's coming and saying, this isn't working too well. This isn't working. I made a speech a week ago in Texas. We had crowds that were unbelievable. On the highways, you can't get in, but the highways, it's like incredible. You could sell your ticket tonight for a lot of money. Go to eBay. Even as a used ticket, you could probably sell. But you go down the highways and you see it. And I was thinking in Texas, I'm making a speech in front of, obviously, people that like oil. They like God. And you know what else they like? They like their Second Amendment, right? So think about it. So whether it's Pennsylvania or Texas or Oklahoma or North Dakota or any place, you take a look at this, right? And no oil, no guns, no God. I don't think George Washington running with Abraham Lincoln as his VP, he'll pick Abraham Lincoln as VP, is going to win in Texas or in Pennsylvania or any place else with those three things eliminated. That's what they want to do. They want to take away your Second Amendment. If I weren't president, you would either have an obliterated Second Amendment or it would be gone entirely. I am standing between them and your Second Amendment, and that's it. That's it. They know. He put Beto in charge of guns. Beto's in charge. He wants to get rid of everything. Beto, that's a beauty. Remember, he said, I was born for this. Anybody that says they're born for this, remember Beto? He was on the cover of a magazine. I won't mention the magazine. They're back there. It's a total phony magazine. But he was on the cover of the magazine. And he said, I was born to run for president. He was born for it. I was born. Anybody that gets that carried away, that was when he was doing well. Since then, he's cratered. Ever since he made that statement, he's looked very bad. But he's take a look at what he says about guns. And he got put in charge of guns. So I guess Biden pretty soon is going to be coming out saying, no, I never said that. Check out all of the statement he's made on everything. And now he's going the opposite way. But he's agreed to the manifesto entirely, so maybe he'll do that. And then he figures later on he'll go, but everything he said is right, because he has no control over what's happening. The radical left has captured the party. They even elected a person that nobody ever heard of, a senator, it's been a while, against a young, good-looking Kennedy by 10 points in Massachusetts. Did you know Kennedy lost in Massachusetts? You know why? Because he wasn't a radical left. He was like a semi-normal person, just slightly left. No, but think of it. This is what's happened, and this is really what's happened. If you're not a radical lefty, meaning guns, meaning fossil fuels, they want wind. You know, to make the windmill, which are made mostly in China and in Germany, by the way, to make it, so much emission is let out that it's more than you can ever save. It's just the craziest thing. Also, I am truly an environmentalist. But you have to understand, when we do things and they don't, and we clean, and it's very expensive to do that, and they don't, and we have this massive planet, and China, India, Russia, Germany, all these places, it's fuming up, and we're doing our job and beautiful. No, they have to do it also. Otherwise, it just doesn't work the way it's supposed to. They want to ban straws. Has anybody ever tried those paper straws? They're not working too good, right? They want to ban straws. I said, well, you know, I've had a couple of meals at McDonald's, etc., over the years, right? Wendy's, a friend of mine owns Wendy's. I'll give it a plug, right? Burger King. So they want to ban straws. I said, oh, really? What about the carton? What about the plate? What about the knives and the spoons that are plastic? Oh, they're okay. But the straws we got to ban. Has anybody ever tried? Seriously, the new straw, it's made out of paper, right? It disintegrates as you drink it. If you have a nice tie like this tie, this would have no chance. By the time you get finished, the straw is totally disintegrated. Does anybody walk around with a plastic straw? Because it's not bad. You know, you whip it out, boom, boom. You never had to do that. When asked whether he would be willing to destroy the jobs of hundreds of thousands of blue-collar workers to push his anti-energy agenda, you know what the answer is, right? It's the Green New Deal, right? This Green New Deal. This was made up by people that don't get it. Either that or people that just don't like our country very much. But Biden replied, yes, he'll get rid of those jobs. And he famously told a voter, I want you to look in my eyes when he's not wearing the mask, because I've never seen a man that liked a mask. Look, I'm all for it. We have a big weekend, distance on the weekend and all of that stuff, and wear your mask when you're close together in particular, and wash your hands, all those things. We have Labor Day weekend coming up. But did you ever see a man that likes a mask as much as him? And then he makes a speech, and he always has it, not always, but a lot of times he has it hanging down, because you know what? It gives him a feeling of security. If I were a psychiatrist, right? No, I'd say, this guy's got some big issues. Hanging down. Congressman, give me your mask. I want to have it hanging from my ear. I don't want to touch your damn mask. Mike, I'll never touch your mask. No, but the new one is, you know, I went for a physical. The doctor said to me, sir, would you like to go over to Walter Reed? It's incredible. By the way, the job they do on people that have been just really hurt are heroes. And the job they do is incredible. But he, sir, would you like to go over and do a physical? You have some time. You know why I had time? Some deal. Oh, it was China. I decided not to see China because they didn't like the way they were doing business, okay? Does that make sense? So the doctor, White House doctor, highly respected, Sean Conley. Sir, would you like to go over and do your physical, do a piece of it or finish it or whatever it was, but do a physical? I said, I don't know. I'm not in love with the idea. Well, if you do it, we don't have to do it. So, okay, let's go. Come on. So we went. And we're driving. Now, you have to understand, there are like, 100 cars. You see what happens here. It's like the plane times 50. So the cars are driving all over. It's about a 20-minute drive. And we get to the hospital. I get out. I was there probably for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then yesterday I read that I had strokes. CNN, fake news CNN right there. No, it's mini strokes, they called them. I don't know what a mini stroke is, but it's not good. And there could be a day, and I'll admit, I said, hey, it happens to all of us, right? Except these young ones, it's never going to happen to them. They're not looking at that. But you know what happens? But nothing happens. So I went in. I did that part of the physical. The end result was he's very healthy. They're very unhappy when they heard that result. And what you don't remember is when this took place, it was a long time ago. They just started up because they want to try and get me to be in Biden's physical level. They viewed me as being somebody that's, I go around, hey, last week, this week, Texas, North Carolina, Florida, South Carolina, back to Washington, let's go here, let's go there, let's go everywhere, meetings all the time. I think I've answered more questions from these maniacs than any president in history. And mean questions. I watched Biden yesterday, so he hasn't answered questions in, 2 months or something. And yesterday, he took a couple, and they were setups like I've never seen. One young woman, who I think is there, is smiling. Hi. I'd just like to ask you, I'm sorry to bother you with this question. It's the most incredible. So the doctor wrote a letter saying, no, this rumor is wrong. And I don't like, rumors like that. And by the way, if it were a fact, it's fine. It should. I think it's an important thing. But if it's not true, my wife was like, she came to me, she said, I think I would have known that. I said, yeah, I think they would have known it too, because they drove back with me. The press follows me. They have a special deal, a van. They followed me. And then we go in, we go out. But if you remember last time, I go in, I spend a little time in physical, like we all have. Hopefully you have them. Good thing to have, I guess. As long as they give you a good answer. If they give you a bad answer, don't bother. Possibly too late. But I go in. I come out a couple of hours later, I guess, whatever it is, short time later. I get into the car. The press sees me get into the car. On my way home, I get a call from my wife, the First Lady, who's very popular. Do we like our First Lady? She's very popular. She's a great person, a great woman. She said, darling, are you okay? I go, why do you ask? She said, they're reporting that you had a heart attack. Now, you have to understand, I'm driving in a car which is about, 6 cars in front of the press, because they have a big car. There are a lot of them, and we try and give them as little room as possible, make it uncomfortable. But they're right behind me, so they know I got in. And CNN reported that I had a heart attack. That was the same visit, and that didn't work. No, it's unbelievable. CNN reported I had a heart attack, so my wife was concerned. I said, no, not that I know of. And if I did, I think I'd be back there. No, I'll be home in 15 minutes, darling. Thank you for caring. It's always nice. It's always nice. She sounded relieved. That's good. When your wife sounds relieved. But she said, I wonder how that happened. Why did they do that? Because they're fake news. So I go in, and that rumor lasted for a little while, like a day or two. It lasted for a little while, no matter what I did. I walk, I'm in the same motorcade. I go in, and I go out. They know I'm in the motorcade. I actually have to report it, but I'm in the motorcade, and they said I had one of them said it was a massive heart attack. Think of it. Again, it could happen someday, okay? And when it does, I hope things work out. But they knew I'm in the motorcade, and yet they reported it anyway because they're fake news. Now, for the same visit. That was the same. You know, that was the stupidest thing. From now on, when I go for a physical or something, or go to the hospital, announce it. Because this was a quick thing. The doctor, he got me in a lot of trouble. He's a great doctor. I said, no more surprise visits to the hospital where we do a little work because we have some time. But, so now, the same visit, they started yesterday because some joker from the New York Times, who's a third-rate reporter, writes a book. And he said, the vice president was prepared to take over the reins because they thought the president was going to go, I guess, under anesthesia. Do they still call it? In the old days, they called it anesthesia. It's essentially the same thing. I don't want to get into a situation like where Biden used record player. Remember that? You go home, you turn on your record player. But the anesthesia. And I said, how could that be? So remember, just the same visit. They said heart attack a long time. All of a sudden out of this book. And he said, suffered mini strokes. Now they get a letter from the White House doctor that said it's totally false. But they still go with it. They go with it. And they know I'm in the group with them coming back. And I don't know much about a mini stroke, but I assume, Mr. Congressman, if you have a mini stroke, you're not heading back to the White House, right? At least you'll spend a couple of nights at that great hospital, right? So anyway, these are really dangerous people. They are so bad for our country. If we had honest press, it would be so great for the USA. Be so great. They're just a bunch of phony people. Not all of them. You have some very good ones, like about 10%. No, you have some very good ones. You have some great journalists, but it's really, they know it's phony stuff. They're doing anything they can to get this sleepy guy into the White House, and I just don't think the public is going to fall for it. I don't think the public is going to fall for it. You know, in his best days, 25, 30 years ago, he was weak. He was weak as a senator. He was weak. He was not known as being one of the smart ones, and now it's not exactly prime time, I can tell you that. I just want to announce tonight, because we're joined with some very, very special warriors, and Dan Muser. Dan, thank you very much. Great job you're doing. Dan, congressman. These are congressmen who have really been warriors for me. They really have been. Thank you very much, Dan. Fred Keller. Fred, thank you. Great job, Fred. The great John Joyce. Great. Thank you, John. Guy Reschenthaler. Do you know him? Guy Reschenthaler. What are you doing over there? What happened? You don't get along with these guys? Huh? Oh, okay. That's good. Now I understand. That's good. Glenn Thompson. Great job. Great job, Glenn. Really great. And a real good friend of mine right from the beginning, right, Mike? You know, we were in Pennsylvania, and a friend of ours, a congressman long-term, right, from Kentucky. No, from actually Tennessee. Came up to us. I was getting ready to make a speech, and Tennessee has very early voting. Remember what he said? This was 4 years ago. He said, I don't know what's happening in Pennsylvania. I don't know what's happening in the rest of the country. But if what's going on in the rest of the country is like what's going on in Tennessee, he said, they're coming from the hills, the roadsides, the rivers. He said, they're coming. People that never really cared to vote. They're great Americans, but they never wanted to vote for the people that they were seeing. He said, they're miles long. They've got Trump here, Trump hats, Trump pins, right? Tennessee. Duncan. Right? Congressman Duncan, right? Remember that, Mike? That was the first time. I mean, they said they've never seen anything like it. Tennessee's been incredible, by the way. But so Mike and I listened, and we said, I wonder what that's all about. But it is true. People that weren't really political people, they're coming in and, you know, the deal here, like the Miss Universe, good old Miss Universe, right? Like this. They came with hats. They came with pins. They're loaded with pins. One person had hundreds of pins. They never had a pin in their life. But they love the job that we've done, and we're going to do it even better in the next 4 years. Another great friend of mine who's a tough cookie and a great congressman, but unfortunately, he's a former because he's just, I don't know, he's just a special guy and really has a big, beautiful heart. Lou Barletta. Lou, thank you. You look good, Lou. Why don't you run again, Lou? Run. And a man who's tough. You know, there's this guy, you ever hear of a guy named Connor Lamb? He's like a lamb. So we heard, you know, because he's in sort of a Trumpy area, right? And we heard that he's going to be for Trump and he's going to be fighting for Trump. And, you know, I saw some of his commercials. I thought he was a Republican, right? Except when he got to Washington, he voted with Pelosi 100% of the time. Crazy Nancy. He voted with Crazy Nancy. And so we thought, this Connor Lamb guy, he even voted to impeach your president over nothing. Zero. And that's very personal. When they do that, that's personal. So, and I have to say, Congressman, 196 to nothing, they stuck with us. And so did the Senate, other than Romney. You can have Romney, I'll tell you. Romney couldn't be elected dog catcher in Utah right now. Although he gave me a half a vote. It was 52.5 to a half. That was Romney. What a beaut. Remember he was walking with the Black Lives Matter saying, yes, I'm a member of Black Lives Matter. Everyone saying, that's nice, wonderful. He had a lot of masks on, I'll tell you that. But we did a great job. We had a great, it was an amazing thing. But this Connor Lamb was out there fighting it. And he shouldn't have done that. And we have somebody that blows him away. He's more of a hero. He's tougher. He's stronger. He's smarter. He's better looking, not that that matters. You know, under the Me Too generation, I don't talk about looks anymore. Looks don't matter. Doesn't make any difference. I don't talk about looks. Me Too. Me Too generation. But I'll tell you, this man is something special. He's a real hero, a real tough guy, and he'll never let you down. Sean Parnell. Just remember that Connor Lamb, and I remember because he's like a lamb. He's like a little lamb. Weak. Got a lot of weak people. We like strong people, don't we? We like strong. We need strong people right now. We have somebody else in the audience who served as my Secretary of Energy, and he was incredible. He was the governor of Texas for what, 12 years, I think, Rick, right? 12? Tell me, 14? 14 years he was. And he was an incredible governor, and he was an incredible secretary, and he's been an incredible friend. Rick Perry, everybody. There was nobody that got into the race tougher than Rick. What he said about me, I'll never repeat again. Even my own family didn't like me when he got finished. And when he decided that I would be the one, he got out. And there's nobody that said better things about me. But you're great, Rick, and you did a fantastic job. Every place you've been great. Thank you very much. Rick Perry. Thank you. Hey, Rick, how are we doing in Texas? Huh? We had a poll today in Georgia. You know, they say Georgia's going to be close. Well, this was a poll that hates Trump, and we're up 7. That was the same thing happened last time, right? You know, they use the words in play. Georgia's in play, they say. Georgia's in play. Well, we're up 7, and this is a poll that truly hates us, okay? But they did the last time. Didn't they say last time that Texas was in play? And then it was 8 o'clock, the polls closed, and they only announce if you're way ahead. So they say the polls have closed in the great state of Texas. Donald Trump has won the great state of Texas. And I kept hearing it was in play. They said Utah, the home of our worst senator. They said Utah was in play. That's Mitt Romney. Mike Lee's doing excellent. I didn't want to get them confused by them. But they say Utah, same thing. Remember that 4 years ago? We had the guy with the shaved head. What was his name, Rick? What a loser that was. You know who I'm talking. That's right. A McMuffin, I think, something like that. And he was going to win Utah. And I won it by many, many, many points. It was called immediately. So these are people that are just not good. In fact, Hillary even beat this guy. Hillary came in second in Utah. In less than 4 years, we've achieved more than anyone thought possible. We passed massive tax cuts for hardworking families. And we eliminated more regulations than any administration in the history of our country. I saved the U.S. auto industry by withdrawing from the last administration's job-killing catastrophe known as the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It would have been a catastrophe. Not only for autos, by the way, for everything else, too. To protect our workers, I imposed stiff tariffs on foreign aluminum and foreign steel. That kept you guys very busy. They were dumping all over the place. Is that right? They were dumping. And it was bad steel, too. It was dirt steel. This week, my administration reached a breakthrough agreement to stop additional steel imports from Brazil and from Mexico for the rest of the year, despite the USMCA. Sometimes they get a little carried away, and we have to do a little tariff action on them. So we stopped that. We're reversing decades of the Biden betrayals that decimated Pennsylvania jobs. You know that. This state lost, listen to this, 1 in 3 manufacturing jobs after the twin disasters of NAFTA and China's entrance into the World Trade Organization. One of the worst things that happened when China came in. You know, they were flatlined for many years. Then they came into this crazy deal. They're considered a developing nation. You see, I've been sort of protesting that, but they're considering China. As a developing nation, you get all sorts of things that you would never get, advantages over the United States. Well, we have very strongly protested that. They're not a developing nation. They're a very powerful, developed nation. And you know what? They got to pay what everyone else has to pay. Earlier this year, I kept my promise to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania when we ended the NAFTA nightmare and signed the brand new U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement into law, which is in effect now and really doing well. Everyone said it'll never happen. And I had great help from these gentlemen right here. I took the toughest ever action to stand up to China's pillaging, plundering, and rampant theft of Pennsylvania and many other places' jobs. That's all throughout the world, by the way. But our states have been just pillaged by China and others. Joe Biden's agenda is made in China. My agenda is made in America. After years and years of rebuilding other countries, we are finally rebuilding our country. It's called America First. We're America First. It's enough. And we're bringing our soldiers back home. You see what's going on. After 19 years in Afghanistan, faraway places. To bring hope to our inner cities, I created Opportunity Zones. Tim Scott, great senator from South Carolina, worked on it with me. Passed criminal justice reform, delivered permanent funding for historically black colleges and universities that Obama would never do. And before the China virus, we achieved the lowest African American, Hispanic American, Asian American unemployment rates ever recorded by far. And they're now heading back in that direction quickly. Democrat politicians have failed the black community for decades. They failed the Asian community, the Hispanic community. They failed women. The numbers on women's unemployment were the best in 61 years. Biden spent the last 47 years betraying the American people. He was always for things that you wouldn't want, and now he's changing. No, I never said that. I never said that. I've spent the last 4 years keeping my promises and delivering for the African American community and for all communities. And the best is yet to come. Perhaps in no area have our opponents more thoroughly betrayed working families of all backgrounds than on the subject of immigration. You know how we've been fighting for that. Under my administration, we achieved the most secure border in American history. We ended catch and release, stopped asylum fraud, and we've deported 20,000 gang members, and we get them out, and we get them out fast. Thank you, ICE. ICE and Border Patrol. ICE and Border Patrol. They don't like ICE because ICE they're tough. You got to be tough in that job, by the way. Anybody up here like to work in ICE? I don't think so. Let's see, you could probably be okay. But you'd rather do what you're doing, right? I agree with you. These are tough guys. They have to be tough. These are bad, bad gang members. I mean, you look at MS-13, you look at what's happened with MS-13, but we get them the hell out. Sometimes we have to put them in prison because we don't even want to take a chance they can come back in after what they've done. We built 300 miles of border wall, and we're adding 10 new miles every single week. Every week. And the wall will be finished very soon. And by the way, they keep saying, but Mexico will be paying for the wall. And I say it respectfully to Mexico, but they will be paying for the wall. They understand that. They just don't want to write it, and that's okay, too. Because Mexico's treated us very well. The president of Mexico, right now they have 27,000 Mexican soldiers on our border guarding us from people coming in illegally into our country. We invested $2.5 trillion in the United States military and launched the first new branch of the United States Armed Forces in nearly 75 years since the Air Force, and that's called the Space Force. Right, Sean? Pretty good. Going to send Mike into space. You want to go into space, Mike? Our great congressman. But think of that. You know, we created a new branch of the United States. That alone, if you had that alone. But then you add judges, all the other things. We passed VA choice and VA accountability. So now, instead of waiting for a week, 2 weeks, 5 weeks, 9 weeks to see a doctor, you don't have a doctor, you go right out, you get a private doctor, we pay the bill, and our great veterans get better quickly. And accountability. We keep people accountable for the way they treat our veterans. And if they don't treat them well, we say, sorry, you're fired, get out. No, we couldn't fire anybody. We had sadists, we had thieves, we had some very bad people in the VA, and they're all gone. Thank you. I love you too. Thank you. Thank you. Such friendly voices. Right, beautiful. Only in Pennsylvania, right? Thank you. I withdrew from the last administration's disastrous Iran nuclear deal. Think of this. Obama paid $150 billion for a short-term deal. He gave $1.8 billion in cash. You ever see $1 million like at a casino floor or something in $100 bills? It's a lot. It's like the size of this, right? Now think $1.8 billion. How did you guys allow that to happen? Huh? They said we all voted against it. I kept my promise, recognized the true capital of Israel. You never know nowadays, right? And I opened the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. I recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. They've been trying to get that done for 52 years. I got it done immediately. And by the way, as far as the capital of Israel, Jerusalem, they've been talking about many, many presidents. They all promised it. Nobody did it. I did it. We get things done. And we just did something that is incredible. Even the New York Times gave it good reviews. Not good reviews, beyond good reviews. Tom Friedman gave it phenomenal reviews. You believe that? And we achieved the first breakthrough in Middle East peace in decades. A deal with Israel, right? And the UAE. to deal with Israel and the UAE. And that's going to lead, and I will tell you, we have representatives over right now, and other people are saying, we want to get in that deal. You'll have peace in the Middle East, but we want to get the hell out. Let's get them all back. Let's get them all back. Don't forget, we're energy independent. There used to be a reason. Now we do have a reason. It's called Israel. And we have some very good partnerships over there. In all fairness, we have some countries that have treated us very well, and we're going to take care of those countries. But we are energy independent for the first time, and that's a very good feeling. And our military has never been stronger than it is now. It's new and it's beautiful. And I told you, we took over 100% of the ISIS caliphate in Iraq and Syria, and we killed the founder and leader of ISIS, al-Baghdadi. And separately, we killed the world's number one terrorist for decades and decades, Qasem Soleimani. We killed Soleimani. It was a big step for the Middle East. We kept America out of wars. Remember, they always said, oh, this Trump, he's radical. He's really, he's too radical. He'll get us in wars. I kept you out of wars. What happened with North Korea? Look, I get along with Kim Jong-un. They say, that's terrible. He gets along. No, it's good if I get along. If I get along with Russia, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's a good thing. These maniacs, anytime, they always talk about Russia. They never talk about China. You know, it's very interesting. It's always Russia. I heard it starting again. They said, somebody spoke to Russia 2 years ago. It's Russia, Russia, Russia. This total maniac, Shifty Schiff, he's a total maniac. So, no, it's always. Do you ever notice? I can't even listen, but when I hear Russia, I just turn it off. It's crazy. But, you know, getting along with countries is actually a good thing. Can we explain that? It's a good thing, not a bad thing. It's a very good thing. But remember, I was the one that was going to be leading you into war. In the first week, he'll be in war. He's a radical kind of a personality. I'm really not. I like to have peace. But if we ever do get into war, we will knock the hell out of them, whoever it may be. These guys only fight to tie. They don't fight to win. We fight to win. But you look at what's happening where they're all coming back home. I even reduced in Germany because Germany, they're an ally, but, you know, they took advantage of us very badly on trade and very badly with our military. So we removed a lot of soldiers out of Germany. They're not happy. They said, this is going to hurt our economy. Well, it's good for our economy, okay? They thought it was going to hurt the German economy. Well, they don't treat us right. They don't pay their bills. They're delinquent. You know what delinquent is? They're delinquent. They don't pay their bills. We protect them. They don't pay their bills. We got to do something. And they treat us horribly on trade through the European Union, which basically they run. Together, we've been rapidly fixing a half a century of disasters, and Biden was there for every one of them. Joe Biden supported NAFTA, China's entry into the world trade. He supported the Korean deal. The Korean deal was so bad. It was so bad. This was a deal that was going to produce South Korea, done by crooked Hillary Clinton. This was a deal that was going to produce 250,000 jobs. She said, this will be 250,000. And she was right. For South Korea, it produced 250,000. For us, we got nothing. We got losses. We got nothing. It was a terrible deal. I renegotiated it. Now it's a good deal. And they also gave and want to give mass amnesty for illegal aliens. Biden supported cutting Social Security. He voted for the Iraq War. He opposed the mission to take out Osama bin Laden. He opposed the killing of Soleimani. When I did that, he said, that's a terrible thing. That's a terrible thing. Everybody in the Middle East, they couldn't believe it. They celebrated, some of them quite quietly, I must add. He oversaw the rise of ISIS, and he cheered the rise of China as a positive development for America and the entire world. Remember that? Now he's trying to say, well, I can be tough on China, too. No, he can't. China owns him. China owns Sleepy Joe. He's not going to be tough on China. And he said all these wonderful things, and then all of a sudden his poll numbers started going down. How about law enforcement? He's like, so bad. In his entire convention, they didn't even mention. And by the way, something else they did that I think is terrible, really terrible. The words under God, right? 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 Called the Pledge of Allegiance, under God. He left those two words out twice at their caucus, which is part of their convention. But that's where they're coming from. He's trying to say, oh, well, we didn't do this. And then we gave it to him and he sort of shut up. But then 2 days later, he's saying it didn't happen. They lie. And these mail-in ballots are a disgrace, and they know it. Sign your mail-in ballot, okay? You sign it and send it in, and then you have to follow it. And if on election day or early voting that is not tabulated and counted, you go vote. And then if for some reason after that, it shouldn't take that long, it comes in, they're not going to be able to tabulate it because you will have voted. But you have to make sure your vote counts, because the only way they're going to beat us is by doing that kind of stuff. I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to be nice. They want to send out, Congressman, 80 million ballots. Now, there have been many races over the last year where they've done this, and they've been a disaster. You look at New York, they had a congressional race, not a very good congresswoman, very untalented. I know her well. I lived in New York. She's not got much going. They have no idea what the vote is. I think 20% of the ballots were missing. And then they declared her the winner. And the other guy saying, what about me? He's not too happy, her opponent. You look at what happened in Paterson, New Jersey. You look at what happened in Virginia. You look at what happened. There's not a race. And these are small. These are easy to control. Now they want to send out 80 million unsolicited. I like it much better. They used to say universal. They used to say live ballots. I like the word unsolicited and solicited. Solicited's okay, because that's when you're asking and you want it, then you send in the necessary paperwork and documentation, and you get the ballot and you fill it out. That's okay. But you can't, this whole thing with the unsolicited. Unsolicited means you're sitting there. You know, we have a big enthusiasm edge. But when they throw these things in your face, and the lists are inaccurate, and people are dead, and dogs have gotten ballots, they have. Dogs have gotten ballots. And they know I'm right, and everybody knows I'm right, and they say I'm right behind the closed doors, and it's a disgrace what they do to our country. 80 million unsolicited ballots, people that had no idea, people that weren't going to vote, in all fairness. It's really unfair, because our people have enthusiasm. They're going out to vote. They're all going out to vote. Everybody here going to vote? Everybody? But they have no enthusiasm. I said, so that's unfair. That guy walks in, then he'll have somebody knock on the door, say, listen, would like your ballot. I don't want to vote. I don't care about Biden. I'm a Democrat. I don't care about this guy. Well, look, where is it? Here, take it, blah, blah, blah. They even have a provision where you don't have to verify signatures. What is going on? And they have another provision in some states where you can harvest. That's where you grab them all together and drop them. And in Nevada, they actually have a provision where they don't have to be counted till 7 days after the election. So that means if we have a close election, could be close. I hope it's not. I hope we have a landslide like you've never seen. But if we have a close election, that means Nevada has the right to, and I love Nevada. I think we're going to win Nevada, except where they're sending all these hundreds of thousands, millions of unsolicited ballots to people in Nevada and people that probably left a long time ago. It's very unfair. It's a very unfair. But think of it. They have 7 days after the election. Did you know that, Mike? 7 days. What does that mean? I want to see the results of the election on November 3rd. Right? And by the way, if it's anything like these other events, it could go on forever. I mean, the congressional race, which they just gave up and they declared her a winner, which they should not have done. They should make that do-over. And I think in Paterson they have a do-over. I think they're going to do it over because it was just ripe with fraud, theft. People were selling ballots. People were selling ballots. And, you know, they talk about Russia. They're so worried about Russia. What about sending out 80 million ballots? That's your real problem. And you know, if Russia or China or these other countries want to cheat, all they have to do is forge ballots. It's much easier than the way they have to go about it, right? So we have to put pressure on these people. Now, the good news is we have a lot of court cases. We have one in Pennsylvania. You know that, right? And we have two judges. We have a state judge. We have a federal judge. I think both highly qualified judges, from what I understand. I hear that they're not too happy about what they're seeing. So we'll see what happens. We're going to see what happens. The lawyers feel very confident. But we have to win those cases. But what you have to do is send in your early ballot and then go and make sure that ballot is tabulated or counted. And if it's not counted, vote. And then they have the job, if it comes in late, and if it's not too late, they have the job of making sure that they don't count it. But follow that ballot, because these people, they'll be lost, they'll be gone. The numbers are incredible, where they're 25 and 30% off, 20% off. Follow your ballot. When I banned travel from China, Biden called it hysterical. If we had listened to Sleepy Joe, hundreds of thousands of more Americans would have died. You know that. You know, he always gets up today. COVID-19, COVID-19. I said, Joe, look, we got a country, and I agree with that, and we've done a hell of a job. We've done a hell of a job. If you look at some of our numbers. But you got to start talking about the economy. And you got to start talking your place. I mean, this is when you look at Pennsylvania, you're in a shutdown. You have a governor that has you shut down. Huh? That's right. I didn't even think about it. You have a governor that has you shut down. That's right. And almost all states are open. And frankly, their numbers are very good. You look at Florida's now way down. Arizona, which had a spike, way down. California, Texas is going way down. They're all way down. You haven't even opened up the great Commonwealth. Well, you have the same thing in North Carolina. And you have the same thing in Michigan. What she's doing to Michigan is sad. And you know, you have death with a shutdown. You have depression. You have drugs and alcohol. You have sickness. You have loss of jobs and people. You have suicides. Don't even think about it. But you have suicides. You have a tremendous. Actually, at this stage, we did the right thing. We closed the country down. We studied it. We learned about it. We know the susceptible are old people, senior citizens, nursing homes, people that are old, especially if they have heart problems or if they have diabetes. We know that. We learned it. And we opened it up. But the problem, these shutdowns are causing much bigger problems. You remember my original statement, right? The cure can't be greater. You know, it was an original statement that a lot of people picked up, but it's so true. You have to open up this Commonwealth. It has to be opened up. It has to be opened up now. But here's what I think they're doing. Because you have the same thing in New York. We have a governor in New York who's 36,000 people died, 11,000 people in nursing home because he made a mistake. He made a horrible mistake. And I built him a convention center with 2,800 beds and they didn't use it. And I sent up a ship, a great hospital ship, a massive hospital with hundreds and hundreds of rooms and they didn't use it. And he requested it. And then I said, you're not using it. Why aren't you using it? He could have put those people in the convention center, in the hospital ship. What a shame. But you look at New York, the restaurants are all closed. It's so sad for me. I love New York. You know, I grew up in New York. I love New York. I did well in New York. And it's so sad when I look at what's happening with New York. It's all politics. If you kill somebody, they don't prosecute you, but they go after political enemies. It's a terrible, what's happening in New York is a terrible thing. And the place is dead. No restaurants, the restaurant poor guys. You can't, how long can you do this for? The people are going to lose their jobs. They're never going to open again. It's not like the restaurants is the greatest business in the world. It's a hard business. New York is closed. You're closed. North Carolina's closed. Michigan's closed. All Democrats. And let me tell you what's going to happen. On November 4th, they're going to announce their opening. They're doing this for political reasons. They are. Right, Sean? They're doing it for political reasons because they want our numbers to look as bad as possible going into November 3rd, Election Day. And then as soon as the election's over with, win, lose, or draw for them, they're gonna open it. They got nothing. And you know what? It's a shame what they're doing. For political reasons, they'll be open. You'll be open on November 4th. But you know what? From your standpoint, it's very close for the election. It's very far. If you have a restaurant, then you can't open your restaurant. You can't open your store. It's a disgrace, and they ought to get together. They ought to do it. These are Democrat governors in all instances, and Democrat mayors. When the China virus arrived, we launched the largest national mobilization since World War II. Thanks to the life-saving therapies that we pioneered, the mortality rate has been reduced by 85% since April. Think of that. And we've achieved among the lowest case fatality rates of any major country anywhere in the world. You never hear that from the fake news. They don't want to talk to you about it. And this is a big country. This is a tougher country to do that with. The European Union's case fatality rate is nearly 3 times higher than ours. And if you look now, Spain is having a big blow-up. France is having a big blow-up. No, we've done a great job. We haven't been given credit for it. And he always starts off, COVID-19, that's all he knows, COVID-19. I said, what about the economy? What about jobs? What about all the other things we have to do? All he does, he thinks it's a weak spot. And actually, in theory, if we're getting a fair shake from those people back there, it's actually what the job we've done is actually a strong spot, and that includes you people. With the ventilators that nobody had, nobody that needed a ventilator didn't get a ventilator. Now we're supplying them all over the world. Altogether, the nations of Europe have experienced a 30% greater increase in excess mortality than the United States. Think of that. You don't hear these numbers. Cases in the U.S. have declined by 28% nationwide over the last month, and hospitalizations and deaths have declined radically over the last week. 3 vaccines are in final stage of clinical trials. Would have taken. You should just have no cash bail. You know, they do the no cash bail. You kill somebody, there's no bail, don't worry about it, go out. But I took out an old ordinance, I gave a new executive order, it says 10 years in prison. And amazingly, that was like 3.5 months ago. And they were having a big march on Washington, march elsewhere, and amazingly, that was the end of the statues coming down. No statues. And we're actually prosecuting people for having done it. We made it retroactive to the beginning. Terrible. And by the way, the state statues and monuments, they have to do the same thing. It's real easy. But the rioters that want Biden to win, they want him to win because their agenda is an agenda. It's what they want. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. They both want to cut funding for police. They want to end that cash bail. They want to hire far-left prosecutors and judges and let the criminals run wild. The radical left district attorney in Portland, Mike Schmidt, his name is, has released hundreds of rioters and announced that anyone arrested for interfering with police officers, disorderly conduct, criminal trespass, rioting, and other offenses will not be prosecuted under any circumstance. Oh, it's worse. It's worse. You have somebody in Philadelphia who's worse, right? Worse. In his manifesto with Bernie Sanders, that's what it is. Biden agreed to all these things. You know, you notice now? No, I never said about fracking. I never said, if you don't do fracking in Pennsylvania, 900,000 jobs and your energy bills will triple. Other than that, I don't think you should have it, okay? No, but he said in the manifesto, plus he said many times, you know, we put on the clip yesterday where no fracking, no this, no that. I mean, no guns. How about guns? No guns, no Second Amendment. Biden has pledged to appoint prosecutors who will extend these insane far-left policies nationwide. That's what he's done. That's called the manifesto. He agreed to all this stuff. The craziest thing, you know, you're supposed to bring it to the right. He actually brought it further left. Bernie never dreamt that this was possible. Crazy Bernie. Do you know Crazy Bernie? You know, I had a lot of his voters come to me 4 years ago. A big percentage. You know why? Because I agree with him, and he agrees with me on one thing, trade, the trade, because he knew that other countries are ripping us off, and so did I. Nobody else got it, especially Biden, never got it. He never got it, still doesn't get it. Now he really gets nothing, I'll tell you. He didn't get it in prime time. Now he really doesn't get it. But it's okay for them to make every city look just like Portland, which is a disaster. And again, we could clean it up. We just go right through it. 5,000, 10,000, right through it. These guys are tough, they're smart, and they love our country. They love our country. We'll clean it up in 1/2 hour. It'll be over. Did you see this radical left mayor, Wheeler, his name is, the radical left mayor? They chased him, Mike. They chased him out of his home last night. And all he does is be nice to them because they don't understand nice. They only understand one thing, strength. That's the only thing they understand. They don't understand nice. They chased him out of his home. Unbelievable. Biden's plan is to appeal. Thank you, everybody, very much. Thank you. So as we begin Labor Day weekend, America's unprecedented economic recovery continues. You see what's going on. It's been pretty amazing. The United States economy added today, announced this morning, 1.4 million jobs last month, bringing the total to over 10.6 million jobs created in just 4 months. That's a record by far. In August, we added 249,000 retail jobs, 174,000 leisure and hospitality jobs, and 29,000 new manufacturing jobs. The unemployment rate plummeted to 8.4%, the second largest single month drop ever recorded, surpassed only by our big decline in June. Last month, we saw large declines in the unemployment rate for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and Asian Americans, very big declines. We're witnessing the fastest labor market recovery from any economic crisis in history, by far. By contrast, the last administration had the slowest, weakest, and worst recovery in American history. That was well documented, as you know. This year, the United States has seen the smallest economic contraction of any major Western nation, and we are recovering at a much faster rate than any other nation. Business confidence is higher today in America than in any other G7 or EU country. That covers a lot of territory, so we have the business confidence is higher than any of those countries. In July, retail sales not only recovered, but reached a new all-time high. So think of that. Retail sales, that's a very basic statistic, and it's a big statistic. It not only recovered, but reached the highest level ever. Auto sales have surged to an incredible 74% since their April low and are nearly back to their pre-virus levels. And that's been a tremendous thing. Used cars and new cars have been both doing incredibly well. Mortgage applications were 27% higher in August than during the same period last year. Home builder sentiment reached the highest level on record, indicating that more high-paying construction jobs are on the way. Home building has been great, and lending has been really incredible. U.S. manufacturing activity reached a 19-month high in August. While my administration has fought every day to restore prosperity, however, Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats in Congress are holding additional China virus relief hostage to reasons that nobody understands. I guess I do. I think I understand. It's called politics. And speaking of politics, I think North Carolina, I think that Michigan, and Pennsylvania and other states, they should open. The governors, the Democrat governors should open the states. They'll open them on November 4th, but they should open them now. It's very unfair to the people to have those shutdowns continuing at the level that they're continuing. Democrats are insisting on a massive taxpayer bailout of badly run blue states, stimulus checks for illegal aliens, and the mass release of inmates from jail. They want to release a lot of inmates, some of them for very serious reasons. They want to release them from jail. They want that as part of a stimulus package. Can you believe it? It's time for the Democrats in Congress to start working across the aisle and put the American people first. Now, we have $300 billion in an account that we didn't use, $300 billion, and we are willing to use that. I would be willing to release it subject to Congress and use that as stimulus money, and it would go right to the American people. So we have $300 billion sitting in an account that we didn't need because things are going so well with the economy. But it would be a very appropriate thing to release that to the American people, and I am willing to do it. All we need is a sign-off. But that doesn't mean that we're going to release prisoners, some very vicious people, actually. We're not going to put them on the streets like the Democrats want us to. And we're not going to give stimulus checks to illegal aliens. They came into the country illegally, and now we give them a check. We want to give the checks to the American people. So remember, we have $300 million. It's there. We don't need the money. We don't need anything. Just let that money get released to the American people. As our economy rebounds, there's only one thing that could stop the extraordinary economic comeback and wipe out the future of American workers, and that's what the Democrats want to do with a $4 trillion tax hike, implementing things that will be really bad for our country. And this will just absolutely cripple what we're doing on regulations and so many other elements of success. We had the greatest economy in history prior to the China virus coming in. Now they want to stop regulations. They want to bring up regulations to a level, stop the things that we're doing, which are at a much smaller level, and bring up regulations at a level that nobody's ever seen before. They want to do things that will make it impossible for any economy to grow. They want to ban fracking. And as you saw, ban, and all of a sudden he sees his polls going down, and now he says, well, I was only talking about not maybe banning fracking, but he wants to ban fracking. And it doesn't matter what he wants to ban. The people that control him want to ban fracking. And whether it's Pennsylvania, Texas, Oklahoma, North Dakota, so many other states, you can't ban fracking. That would be a disaster. Ohio want to abolish American energy. I mean, that's what's going to happen. Adopt disastrous trade deals and inflict a devastating shutdown. As you know, he said, we want to shut it down. We would be willing to shut it down. And you don't shut down when we're setting records. And by the way, we're rounding the corner. We're rounding the corner on the virus. Joe Biden's blanket shutdown would collapse our economy, would cause countless deaths from suicide, drug, alcohol abuse, heart disease, and more. You know, shutdowns cause a lot of problems, a lot of very serious problems, more so than the virus itself. Biden's plan is not a solution. It's a virtual surrender. And our country is doing so well. We're starting to do so well. I think we're going to have a great third quarter. I mean, you're going to see for yourself because the numbers will be announced sometime prior to the election on November 3rd. And as you know, Joe spent his entire career sending American jobs to China and other far-away countries. For 47 years, people were pillaging our country, taking our jobs, taking our companies. And that's never going to change with that mindset and with that group. Biden is not going to be standing up to these foreign countries. He's not going to be standing up, maybe more importantly, to the people that run the Democrat Party. He doesn't have the strength to do that. He refuses even to condemn Antifa, a bad group, a far-left domestic terrorist organization. He doesn't want to say anything bad about it. His plan to appease the domestic terrorists is the exact opposite of what I'm doing. And I think you saw that last night. Yesterday, the U.S. Marshals, we sent them in, U.S. Marshals. We were waiting for local government to take care of it, but they didn't do that, so the U.S. Marshals went in, law enforcement. They took down the Antifa member who murdered a man in the middle of a street in Portland. The suspect was killed after drawing a weapon when officers attempted to take him into custody. They wanted to take him in. The U.S. Marshals, credible people. So I want to thank them for their strength, their bravery, and I really do wish that the mayor of Portland and the governor of Oregon would get going and stop the crime in that city. It'd be so easy to do. Well, we're focused on creating good-paying jobs. The radical left is focused on unleashing really violent mobs, and you see that whether you're conservative or liberal, Republican, Democrat, or independent, we must all agree the need for peace and order and safety. Under my administration, law enforcement is conducting arrests nationwide of rioters, looters, and domestic terrorists. The reasons we didn't put Chicago into our list, where we're holding back funds from some of these states and cities that are doing such a poor job, such an incompetent job, a job that nobody can even imagine how bad. And we're holding it back until they get their act together. And we are having a lot of people in Chicago right now, and you notice that their numbers are going down rapidly. But we've deployed a lot of federal law enforcement inside of Chicago, and they're taking out quite a few people. And they're being arrested, they're being put in jail, and that's why you see those numbers going down. That's why you see that with respect to the mayor, we did not hold back funds in Chicago. But New York is experiencing a tremendous crime wave, in some cases up over 300%, and they have to do something quickly. We just spoke to Mayor Bowser, and she's willing to do whatever is necessary. We had a very good talk with her. That's in D.C., and the other places, they speak for themselves. We're working with the state and local authorities to comb through hours of videotape, identify and arrest suspects, and prosecute lawbreakers. We've already got over 300 in jail, and we have tremendous evidence, and I want to thank the media for helping us out, because they're taking different angles. We have it from every different angle. You can't probably have any better than what we've got. We see it from the sky and the ground, and from the right and from the left. So when they say they didn't do it, we say, well, what's this? So we get that from the media free of charge. Under Operation Legend, we've surged federal law enforcement to cities plagued by violent crime. The initiative has already resulted in tremendous success, and nationwide, we have over 2,000 arrests, and we don't talk about it too much, but now we might as well. So we've arrested over 2,000 criminals, and in a single month, murder rate in Chicago, as you know, and as I said, it was cut in half, actually. So on the China virus front, the nations of Europe have experienced a 38% greater excess mortality than the United States, 38% more greater excess mortality than the United States. A lot of you don't want to report that. And if we took New York out of the equation, there's nobody even close. The job we've done is incredible, and we don't get any credit for it, but we've done an incredible job. Through Operation Warp Speed, we have 3 vaccines in the final stage of clinical trials. Yesterday, Pfizer announced, I just spoke to the head of Pfizer, great guy. They announced that it expects to have the results of its trial very, very shortly, next month, but very shortly. We remain on track to deliver a vaccine before the end of the year, and maybe even before November 1st. We think we could probably have it sometime during the month of October. And Pfizer is among the leaders, as you know, and it's a great company. Johnson & Johnson also doing very well. Moderna. We have some really great companies. They're all doing very well. They're all in final stages. And I think you're going to see results that are shockingly good. Finally, I want to provide you with a brief update of the virus. Cases in the United States have declined 28% nationwide over the last month. and hospitalizations and deaths have continued to decline over the past week, very substantially declined. Thanks to America's medical genius, the mortality rate has been reduced by 85% in April. Mortality rate reduced by 85%. Hospital lengths of stay are 1/3 of their average length in April. So the hospitalization's down, the length of stay is way down. In order to keep making progress against the virus, we ask all Americans to remain vigilant, especially over Labor Day. You know, you have the Labor Day weekend coming upon us immediately. I guess we can say pretty immediately. And we need everybody to be careful, to apply common sense, and do all of the things that we've told you to do as quickly, as much as you can. Social distancing, wearing a mask whenever the distancing is not possible, and staying with a group that you know. Let's just try and get through this one weekend, and I think we have a chance of doing that. Just social distance, wash your hands, all of the hygiene things that we speak about, and we're really rounding the turn. And the vaccines are coming, the therapeutics have already come, but they continue to come. The convalescent plasma has had a tremendous impact already. You see what's happening there, and remdesivir has been incredible. So we have a lot of things happening. We have a lot of therapeutics coming out. I think from the standpoint of common sense, I guess therapeutics to me right now, you go into a hospital, you give somebody a shot or transfusion. It might be a transfusion. Probably more than 50% are actually transfusions, and they'll leave the hospital shortly thereafter. I mean, to me, that's more important in a certain sense than the vaccine, but the vaccines will be great over the long term, the therapeutics over the short term, and also knowing you have the therapeutics, I think, is great from the standpoint of mind. From the standpoint of the mind, it's great. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I'm going to ask Larry Kudlow to give a couple of examples of how strong our economy is recovering, how strongly it's recovering, and it's setting records at every level, and we're doing better than every other country. And we're very proud of all of the people for doing such an incredible job. This is a V, it's a super V. Again, we have $300 billion ready to go. All Congress has to do is say use it. If they say use it, I'd like to use it without their permission, but I guess I'm not allowed to do that. I did ask that question. So Congress has to just say use it. All they have to do is say use it. $300 billion gets immediately put into our system and will really help the American people. There's nothing else to do, just a very quick statement. So I'm going to ask Larry to come up. I want to thank another man for being here today. There's a man that's an incredible leader, Lou Holtz. I've known him for a long time. He's been a friend of mine, and I think I've received letters from every football coach almost in the nation. Now, that's a little exaggeration, but some of the greats. Nick Saban wrote a letter. Coach O, and Coach O is central casting. I said we're going to have to put him in a movie, right, as a football coach. He'd really be good playing a football coach like you. And Urban Meyer wrote a beautiful letter, and so many of the other great legendary coaches, not only coaches, though, people in sports and people in life, and even great political people recommending Lou for the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And we've analyzed it very closely. We've looked at all of those recommendations. We've looked at Lou's life and his career and what he's done for charity. And the football is obvious. He was a great coach, but what he's done beyond even coaching. So Lou will be getting the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and a date is being picked. It won't be in the too distant future. Lou was married to a great woman, right, Lou? Great woman, and she just passed away a few months ago. Is an incredible woman. She was stronger. I knew her well. She was stronger than Lou. I think she was stronger than you, Lou. I hate to tell you, you're strong too, but she was special, right? So I just want to congratulate Coach Lou Holtz on soon to receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and we look forward to that, Lou. Thank you very much. And you can stay around and listen to Larry for a couple of seconds, or go to your friend. You probably know half of the people in the room. I'll bet they treat you better than they treat me. They treat him good. I wish you'd treat me that way. Larry, come on up.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Again, Coach, many congrats. Many, many congrats. Just to underscore the President's assessment of the economy, very strong jobs report today, 8.4% unemployment rate, 1.4 million payrolls increased, but I want to add 3.8 million increase in the important household survey, which aims at small businesses particularly, and from which the unemployment is calculated. In the past 4 months, we've generated a 10.6 million increase in payrolls and a 14 million increase in households. So we've restored basically half of the jobs that were lost in the pandemic contraction. Today's report also included the lower wage industries and minority groups across the board. The diffusion index was a whopping 69%. So these gains are very, very broad-based. There's still too many people out. There's still too much hardship, still too many unemployed. And we are working on that, and we're moving in the right direction. And that's why today's numbers are encouraging and optimistic. Now, other areas that the President mentioned, just to underscore, we are in a housing boom. There can be no disagreement about that. Sales, mortgage applications, prices, home starts up 23% annually in July. We're in a car boom, automobile boom. We've gone from 8.7 million in sales to 15.2 million in sales in the recent 4 months. That's a big jump. As the President mentioned, the leading indicator of that is used car sales and prices. The manufacturing indexes are very strong. This recovery includes manufacturing. The ISM's running in the high 50s. The new order index is at 68. Production index is 63. We had a manufacturing report for durables, core durables. Over the past 3 months, orders up 35%, shipments up 35%. So these are very strong numbers. New business applications from 25,000 to 66,000. It's a 160% gain through August. And as the President referred, consumer spending is booming. We're up 84% annually over the past 3 months. My view, of course, we are in a V-shaped recovery. It is a self-sustaining recovery. High demand, increased production and manufacturing, along with decline in inventories, will give us a tremendous momentum going into the second half of the year. I still reckon that the third quarter will be at least 20% growth. The Atlanta Fed's GDP Now index is close to 30%. I think 20% is a good number. I think the whole second half and next year, provided that economic policies remain pro-growth. And I just want to mention one thing on the policy front. I simply don't understand the other side wanting a $4 trillion tax increase after a deep pandemic contraction. And on this point, I believe vast majority of economists, I don't care if you're a Keynesian, demand-sider, supply-sider, you just don't raise taxes by this amount or by any amount, really, but $4 trillion, really picking the pockets of taxpayers who are returning to work now and need all the resources they can get. You just don't do it. The profession should be have a complete consensus on that. And so I'm quite surprised, and I think that is a potential obstacle, and people are beginning to speak about that. But all I can say is, factually, the numbers are coming in very positively. There's a lot of optimism going on. More work to be done, but we're rolling in the right direction, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, please.
Thank you, President Trump. If I could first ask a clarifying question about the $300 billion.
Yeah.
You've ruled out doing that unilaterally. You're going to wait for Congress to repurpose it for stimulus checks.
Yeah, what about it?
Oh, is that correct? You're waiting for
Well,
Congress?
there's a theory that I can do it without the approval, but I'd rather get the approval so that we have it. But there's a theory I could take the $300 billion. It's money that we have, money that we've built up, and money that we haven't spent, and I would love to give it to the American people as a very powerful stimulus. So, yeah, I think there is a theory that I could do it without having to go back. But I think it would be appropriate to go back, and I would ask Congress to approve it. It's a very simple approval. It's literally, it's a one-sentence approval. And the Democrats should do that. The Republicans will do that. They'd be glad to do that. So we'll see whether or not they do it. Okay? Please, in the back.
Yes, Mr. President, our editor-in-chief, John Solomon, had an exclusive interview with the head of the Delaware Fraternal Order of Police chapter. He said that they were going to endorse you instead of their native son, Joe Biden. I'd like your response, as well as the National Organization of the Fraternal Order of Police is endorsing you as well.
Well, I'm honored that Delaware, because I don't see Biden anywhere but Delaware. And I like Delaware too. But to have the law enforcement in Delaware give their endorsement to me is really a great honor. It just shows you how pathetic the Democrats are when it comes to crime, when it comes to law and order. So would you please extend my very great thanks? It's a great honor to get it from Delaware law enforcement. We've gotten it from almost all law enforcement, but that's because every time I see Biden speak, it says Delaware, Delaware, Delaware. He never leaves. I'm all over the country. I'm all over the place. Yeah, please. Go ahead. Did you have? Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Thanks, Mr. President. Germany has said that Alexei Navalny, the Russian opposition leader, was poisoned. What do you think should be done to Russia about that? What is your message to Russia about that? And how should the international community and the United States respond?
Well, I think we have to look at it very seriously if it's the case, and I think we will. There's nobody been tougher in Russia than I have. We get along. I get along with almost all countries. I get along with North Korea. Remember, we were supposed to be going to war with North Korea. If Hillary got elected, you'd be at war right now with North Korea. That would be a very messy war, a very bad war. Many millions of people would be killed. In the meantime, we've gotten along with them. We didn't get to war. Everyone said that if I was elected, I'd be at war in 1 week. It's been just the opposite. We're doing very well in Afghanistan, bringing the troops down, very low level. And other things are happening very interestingly. We have a great peace deal going on in the Middle East, actually, with UAE and Israel, and that's been received like probably very few things that many people have done. It's been very well received. And we'll be having other countries announcing soon. They're joining that, and you're going to have a lot of countries in that. A lot of countries are saying, hey, why didn't you bring us in right from the beginning? They would have loved to have been there, but they want to be in. So we're doing a lot of things. I think that I was the one that alerted the United States and the world, Nord Stream 2. I said, why is Germany spending billions and billions of dollars to Russia to get their energy from Russia, and then we're supposed to protect Germany from Russia? What's that all about? And the sanctions and everything else. At the same time with Russia, we're right now negotiating a nuclear non-proliferation treaty, which is very important. It's a very important thing. To me, it's the most important thing. Some people say global warming. I don't. I say this is far more important. And we are the biggest. They are the second biggest, nuclear-wise. China's third. They're actually a distant third, but they're building pretty rapidly. And at some point, we'll include China into those talks, but we're doing very well with Russia on nuclear non-proliferation. So I don't know exactly what happened. I think it's tragic. It's terrible. It shouldn't happen. We haven't had any proof yet, but I will take a look. It is interesting that everybody's always mentioning Russia. And I don't mind you mentioning Russia, but I think probably China at this point is a nation that you should be talking about much more so than Russia, because the things that China is doing are far worse. If you take a look at what's happening with the world, look at what happened with the China virus. Look at what they did by not keeping that within the confines of China. They should have kept it in the confines of China. Look what they've done to 188 countries all over the world, but you never ask about China. You're always asking about Russia. So I would be very angry if that's the case, and we'll take a look at the numbers and the documents, because we're going to be sent a lot of documents over the next few days.
Mr. President?
Mr. President.
Please, in the back.
Thank you, Mr. President. During the conventions, During the conventions, Kimberly and Don Julia had an outreach to the Indian Americans community with a video called 4 More Years for You, which has gone viral among the Indian Americans in the battleground states. So my question is, would Kimberly, Don Jr., and Ivanka Trump, who are very popular among Indian Americans, would be campaigning on your behalf among the Indian Americans with your views on India-US relationship?
Well, I didn't understand everything you said. I know India, and I understood those young people that you mentioned. They're very good young people. And I know their relationship to India is very good, and so is mine. And Prime Minister Modi is a friend of mine, and he's doing a very good job. Nothing easy, but he's doing a very good job. We're talking, I mean, while we're at it, we're talking about China and India going at it pretty good on the border, as you know. It's been very nasty. It's been a very nasty situation. And we stand ready to help with respect to China and India. If we can do anything, we would love to get involved and help. And we are talking to both countries about that. But I appreciate your nice sentiments. They think a lot of India, and so do I, and I think a lot of your Prime Minister. Thank you.
So my question was about Indian Americans. Do you think they are voting for you? Are they supporting you?
I do. We had an event in Houston, as you know, and it was a fantastic event. I was invited by Prime Minister Modi, and this was this was at where they play football, the Houston football team, and it was incredible. It was actually incredible, and the Prime Minister could not have been more generous. We have great support from India. We have great support from Prime Minister Modi, and I would think that the people, Indian people, would be voting for Trump. I also, as you know, went to India just prior to the pandemic setting in, because India's been hit very hard. Left really about a week before that. And we had an incredible time. What we saw, the people are so incredible. It's really an incredible place, an incredible country, and it's definitely big. It's definitely big. But you've got a great leader, and he's a great person.
Thank you, sir. Do you think China is bullying India?
I hope not. I hope not. But they're certainly going at it. They're going at it much more strongly than a lot of people even understand. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you, sir. Just to follow up on Alexei Novotny, you just said you haven't had any proof yet. Do you have any reasons to doubt the results from Germany?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't. I hear Germany has made was it definitive or almost definitive? But we have not seen it ourselves, no. But we have not seen it ourselves. But I would certainly be okay with that. They want to do something. They want to take action. Shouldn't happen. Shouldn't happen. But again, we are working very closely with a lot of countries on a lot of different things. We've taken stronger action against Russia than any other country in the world, as you know. I'll tell you, President Putin would tell you that right now. But the fact that I get along with Russia and that I get along, frankly, with everybody right now, I'm not getting along with China, but that's my choice. I don't like what happened with respect to the pandemic, with respect to the China virus. I don't like it at all. What they've done to this world and this country and Europe and every place else is terrible. But I do get along with President Putin. But I've been tougher on Russia than anybody else by far. If you look at the Obama administration, they were weak. Look at the land they gave up. Look at what happened with respect to Ukraine. Such a big part of Ukraine given up during the Obama administration. And I don't think they would have done that with me. I don't think they would have done that with me at all. We gave tank busters and they gave pillows. Did you ever hear that expression? They sent pillows and we sent tank busters to Ukraine. So, but with that being said, if we can do a nuclear non-proliferation agreement, that would be a great thing. No, but I would not be at all happy if that were the case. And it looks like it might very well be the case. I mean, based on what Germany is saying, that seems to be the case. John?
Mr. President, I just want to ask you about something you said a while back that's been talked about many, many times. Back in 2015, you said that you didn't think John McCain was a hero, that you prefer people who don't get captured. In light of all that's happened since then and all you've learned, do you regret saying that? Is it something you wish you had not said?
I say what I say, and I never got along with John McCain. I disagreed with John McCain. You know that better than anybody, frankly. I wasn't a fan. I disagreed with many of his views. I disagreed with his views on these ridiculous, endless wars. I disagreed with the way he handled the vets, the VA. The VA is running much better now, and we did with the Mission Act and the accountability and all the things we've done for the VA. He was not able to do that, but I disagreed with John McCain on a lot of things. That doesn't mean I don't respect him. I respected him, but I really disagreed with him on a lot of things, and I think I was right. I think time has proven me right to a large extent.
But on this notion of
Yeah,
preferring
please go
people
ahead.
who aren't captured, do you?
Thank you, Mr. President. Earlier in the statement that you read before questions, you spoke about how you believe that we're, as you put it, rounding the corner on the coronavirus
Yeah, I do
pandemic.
believe that, yeah.
And you said that yesterday as well, and I think everybody would love to see the pandemic come to an end. There's no doubt about that. But I wanted to ask you about a forecast that has come out from the IHNB at the University of Washington. And they are forecasting by January the 1st of next year that we'll have 410,000 American deaths from coronavirus, which is 225,000 from where we are right now. So can you explain how you see us rounding the corner based upon that projection?
If I didn't close up our country, if I didn't stop China, highly infected, from coming in, if I didn't stop Europe from coming in far sooner than anybody else, including Dr. Fauci and others, wanted to, and Dr. Fauci was very nice. He said President Trump made a great decision. We would have far more than that. But maybe even more importantly, if I didn't close up, we would have, instead of the number that you mentioned or whatever it may be, we're about 180, we would have perhaps 1.5 or 2 million deaths right now if I went a different direction, which some people wanted me to do, and I decided not to do it. We'd have 2 million deaths. Now, a lot of countries don't report their deaths. Obviously, China's not reporting because they had far more than we did. China had far more deaths than we did, in my opinion. It's just my opinion. But they don't report their deaths, or they don't report them accurately. And I don't want to embarrass other countries, but I can tell you there are other countries where the death toll is far higher than the United States, but they don't report deaths. We report it to a level that nobody reports it. We also do testing and cases. I watch your broadcasts and I read your information, your media outlets very, very carefully, and I look at the word cases. And the reason, I say it 100 times, nobody wants to pick it up, but we do testing at a level that nobody ever dreamed possible. We have the best tests, and we have by far the most tests. Actually, India, as per your question before, India is number 2, and they've done a good job, but they're about 40 million tests behind us, and they're a country of 1.5 billion people. Now, because of all these tests, we have far more cases. If we cut our cases in half, if we cut our testing in half, we'd probably have about half the number of cases. If we cut it down to levels, there are some countries that don't test. They test when somebody walks into a hospital. That's the test you get. They walk into a hospital, they're sick, that's your test. We have tested more and better, and you just see where we now have millions of tests coming in from a certain company that's done a fantastic job, and it's going to be anywhere from 5 minutes to 15 minutes on the spot, very accurate test. But if we had much less testing, no testing, you wouldn't be reporting cases. But you saw this, I don't want to go over the statistics, you all wrote it down, but you see how we're doing compared to the rest of the world, and if you took out New York, which has been a tragic situation, with the amount of people that died in New York.
You can't just simply take out a major state in the U.S. It's still a part of the United States, New York is.
No, I'm just
You
saying.
can't just take it out of the equation.
I'm just saying, New York has been, in particular, run, whether it's badly, incompetently, or whether it's unfortunate, and I appreciated Governor Cuomo saying that I've done a phenomenal job, and he said very good things. He said bad things too, later on when he had no really other choice. But if you took out New York from those numbers, you can multiply our tremendous success by a lot. But look, the bottom line is that the job we've done on COVID-19 or the China virus, China plague, call it whatever you want, there are a lot of different names. but it's been incredible. We've also helped a lot of other countries, especially with ventilators, because we are now, we build ventilators at a level that nobody ever thought possible. So
So you don't see that forecast being accurate, the one that I cited to you?
yeah, but you didn't hear me. If we didn't do what I said, we would be at 2 million deaths right now.
Taking that into account, it's just going forward.
No, they're not taking that into account. I had a choice to make. If we made the wrong choice, the number that you have, which is less than other countries, but the other countries don't report deaths. They don't report them to the extent, and they're not accurate. You know that, and so do I. Because you take a look at some of the things happening in certain other very large countries. First of all, we're a very large country. But you take a look at things happening with respect to the reporting of deaths in other countries, and I say, give me a break. So it's been amazing. But we made some moves at the beginning. China, big. Europe, big. But the biggest of all was closing it down, understanding the disease, and we did. And now we know it's the elderly. It's especially elderly if they have heart, diabetes, if they have problems. And we're watching it, and we're watching it very closely. And by the way, we're doing super testing with respect to that, super testing. But if we did it a different way, instead of the number that you said, but basically the number that we're at now is approximately 180,000, we'd be at 2 million people right now. Could be higher than that. Yeah, please go ahead.
President Putin about the Russia,
Thank you,
the
Mr.
Russia
President.
vaccine,
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
President. The
I
Russia
don't know anything
vaccine.
about the Russia vaccine. I'm not sure. We have our vaccine, and our vaccine is, I think it's going to be the standard. It's going to be great. These companies are incredible. They've come up with the great vaccines over the years, and that's the vaccine that probably most of the people in this room are going to want to take, right?
Thanks, Mr. President. A quick clarification on my question. The $300 billion, is that from the Main Street lending program, or is that from a different part? Where are you?
It's sitting in an account, has not been spent, but we're willing to spend it. No, we're willing to spend it. I'd like to get approval from Congress. There's a theory that I don't have to do that, but I'd rather be upfront, and I'd like to get approval from Congress. Let it go directly to the people. It would be a great stimulus. It's actually more stimulus than we're asking for in terms of pure stimulus. This would be pure stimulus. I wouldn't have to let prisoners go, some very evil prisoners go. Like, think of it. The Democrats, in order to get what they want and in order to give us they're talking about allowing prisoners to be released, prisoners that we don't want to be released. So in order that we get money to the American people, they want to say release prisoners and other things like that are very bad. And we just can't do that. We don't want to do that.
And then just to follow on John's question, I know you spoke earlier about the Atlantic story, and you referenced the number of administration officials who have come out to support your...
No, we have 11 people. I was just told we have 11 people. There is nobody that feels more strongly about our soldiers, our wounded warriors, our soldiers that died in war than I do. It's a hoax. Just like the fake dossier was a hoax. Just like the Russia was a hoax. It was a total hoax, no collusion. Just like so many other things, it's a hoax. And you'll hear more of these things, totally unrelated, as we get closer and closer to election. The magazine is a failing magazine, and nobody called me. Nobody called me from the magazine and said, "Do you have a comment about it?" No, they just write whatever they want to write because they figure you can't get sued. You can get sued, but it's a very hard bringing lawsuits. But we have many witnesses, and it's just a continuation of the witch hunt so that it can hopefully affect the election. But the American people are too smart. So whether it's the fake dossier that turned out to be a total fraud or so many other things have turned out. I've been under investigation from before I even got elected. These people have gone after me more than any president in the United States in the history of the United States. And it's a shame. It's a shame. And despite that, we've done more in the first 3.5 years than any administration. There's been no administration that's done more. When you add it all up, there's been no, despite all of the horrible political games that have been played, but there's nobody that's been able to do what I've done, and that includes the Great Mission Act, because what Obama passed was a joke. It was a joke. and we took it to a level that nobody thought possible, and that includes accountability. So it's a disgrace that somebody's allowed to write things like that. It could have been, you know, a lot of times the sources aren't sources that don't exist, and sometimes the sources are just people that are disgruntled former so-called employees.
Well, my question is sort of about that. I mean, the notable voice that's been missing from the denials is your former chief of staff, John Kelly, who was obviously intimately involved in this. How are we supposed to read the fact that John
Here's the
Kelly
thing.
hasn't?
I know John Kelly. He was with me, didn't do a good job, had no temperament, and ultimately he was petered out. He was exhausted. This man was totally exhausted. He wasn't even able to function in the last number of months. He was not able to function. He was sort of a tough guy. By the time he got eaten up in this world, it's a different world than he was used to, he was unable to function. And I told him, John, you're going to have to go. Please give me a letter of resignation. And we did that. And now he goes out and badmouths. Now, there are people that are jealous. There are people that are upset that they're not here anymore. There are people that we've done an incredible job. The virus came in, and now we're doing an incredible job again. We're going to build it up bigger than it was before the virus came in. But I don't know that it was him. I haven't seen that. I mean, I see anonymous, but it could have been a guy like a John Kelly. Because he was, just so you understand, he was a very, you look at some of his news conferences, what happened to him. He got eaten alive. He was unable to handle the pressure of this job. This job was a tough job. Mark Meadows doing a great job. But Kelly was unable to do that. And as far as that day, I mean, we have so much proof as to going to I went to Paris and the environs, and I was all set to go. They had a rainstorm, the likes of which you've rarely seen. The fog was so great. It was as dense as I've ever seen, and I almost knew that you couldn't use the helicopter. And because they had to drive through, I guess, certain parts of Paris, the Secret Service, who, by the way, we have people here that were on the trip. They're writing a report, unable to even think about it. And I said, nope, I want to go. I insist on going. It would have taken us forever. The Paris police said, please, you can't do this. They'd have to shut down various parts of Paris. And it just was not a possible situation. The helicopter would have been very quick. They had the helicopter all set, but the helicopter could never fly in that kind of weather. So, and that turned out, and that's all documented, by the way. We have all of the information from, and probably will release that information, but I think it's a shame when a second-rate magazine, I don't read it, I know very little about this magazine, but when a second-rate magazine can write things like that about somebody that's done so much for the military, can write things like that and get away with it where you actually ask questions on it, it's a disgrace, and you ought to be ashamed of yourself. And let me just tell you, I watched the interview with Sleepy Joe Biden, and he didn't ask questions. You didn't ask questions like that. Read the questions, yes. They were like meant for a child. Those questions were meant for a child. Smiles on faces of reporters, not like you and you. There were smiles on the reporters. What do you think? Take a look at those questions that they asked him. They were not meant for a grown-up. They were meant for a child. So I just want to tell you, it's a disgrace, because you look at what I've done for the United States military. I love those people. I've gotten them pay raises when they didn't get anything near what I've been able to do. And I've rebuilt $2.5 trillion. I've rebuilt the United States military. Now we're including Space Force. Nobody's done more for them. And then when I have to have a report read like that from a third-rate magazine that's not going to be in business much longer, I look at that and I think it's a disgrace. And then when I watch Biden getting asked questions that are really meant for a child to answer, anybody could answer, and I look at the level of question that you people ask, I mean, honestly, it's disgraceful. So I want to thank you all very much. We appreciate it, and we're doing very well. We're very, very proud of what's happened with respect to the economy, and I think that before the election, you're going to see a third quarter announced. The third quarter will be at a level that our country has never seen before. Next year, we're going to have a year that was better than last year, and I feel very certain it'll be better than last year. It'll be the greatest year we've had. And the whole reason this is working out this way is because we set a foundation for this country like we've never had before. So next year is going to be a fantastic year. But remember this, the third quarter is going to be announced sometime prior to the election, by a few days, actually. And I think it's going to be record-setting type numbers on GDP and other things. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Stars and stripes in the decision for the Pentagon that you're going to be
Did you stand by Robert Kelly's grave and say to his father?
And there we go, White House briefing complete. And going into now Labor Day weekend. This is News Now from Fox. We continue with news coverage from across the country.
Everyone, I'm Frank Malakota. I'm a news anchor reporter for KTVU Fox 2 here in the San Francisco Bay Area. My guest is a musician and a songwriter who's part of SongGlorious.com. It's a new way to customize a song tailor-fit for your needs, say an anniversary or a wedding, you name it, they can do it. Let's say hi to musician Ethan Porter out of San Francisco. Ethan, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm well. Well, give us a little bit of information on your background, and then we'll jump into Song Glorious.
I'm born and raised in San Francisco and spent the last 6 years or so in Reno, and then had to end up coming back here just once the whole virus and pandemic ended up popping off. But finally happy to be back in the Bay and making music again. It's been a blast.
And what do you play? What's your instrument?
I play piano, guitar, and some vocals.
All right. And you're a songwriter, and you stumbled on Song Glorious. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I found them on Instagram, and it sounded like a great opportunity for me. They're making a way for artists who obviously are struggling in this time to still be able to make music and also connect with people, which has been the biggest thing for me, honestly, just because I do miss playing shows. But the biggest reason for that, I feel, is that you get to have your art and connect with somebody else. And just in our current state, it's been hard to have that emotional connection. So whenever you have something like this that really, they ask you and they give you their whole story about what they need, you can really tailor fit that song to them so that you can still have that connection in a way.
So COVID-19 really kind of shut down your gigs, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, give us an idea. Song Glorious, you're at home, they contact you and say, we've got this couple, it's their anniversary, and how does the process begin?
Basically, yeah, we get a lot of ones that are for anniversaries, but you could have an idea that you want a song for anything. Let's say you want to celebrate your dog's birthday or something. So you put in that request that you want the song, and you give us the details about it. You say the genre that you want it to be in and the length, and then it goes into a pool, basically where a panel of musicians can see the idea that you want the song about and what the genre is, and they say, hey, I think I can make a great song for a dog's birthday. Let me take a crack at it. And then, yeah, that gets basically tailor-made to your needs, and then it gets sent right back to you in about 4 days.
So say my mom is turning 90. She's an Olympian knitter. She's got a poodle named Frosty, and she's 6'1" tall. And I want a happy birthday gig for her. You'll take all that and put a song with some of that information together, right?
Oh yeah, exactly. So basically you say as many details as you want in there, and then I think they have 4 things that you will require that you need to be in the